Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Late Night Football. And nil-nil is what it finishes between South Chelsea and Tottenham in the Premier League, the biggest game probably of the weekend. And as predicted, it was boring. It was cagey. It was very tactical, and that's the word people use, tactical. But I mean, if you're watching it as a neutral, it was pretty boring. That the game pretty much went the way I thought it would go, and the way that I had said on Friday that it would go. So I mean, no surprises there. And after, maybe after all the frenzy of that first game between United and Southampton, and this is kind of like the cool down game. And it's the same thing that happened between, yesterday when Liverpool and Brighton had this whole action-packed draw, and then City against uh, Burnley was just like one-way traffic, like a pretty routine win. So it's kind of that way with this one. It's a cool down game. It's pretty cagey, and again, same thing as I've said before. Both teams pretty much came into the game not wanting to lose, and when both teams don't want to lose, then very rarely does one of them end up with a win. So yeah, we've said this about Lampard. These big games, he comes in, and it's been this way for him for quite a few games now this season. He's been against the big teams. I don't want to lose. I don't care if I win or don't win, but I don't want to lose. And that's again what we saw today with the team selections. And a lot of people say maybe fitness issues, but the fact is, even though he never changed that pivot. I always say this: when you make the substitutions, that gives you an idea of what the manager wants to do. He didn't change that pivot of Kante and Kovacic. He left them on till the end. Even when he brought on Havertz, when he brought on Pulisic, other players came off. So it was quite clear what the game plan was, which was basically try and nick a goal, or try to break them down to nick a quick goal, or to get a goal from somewhere, but make sure that I'm not Chelsea are not going to get hit on the counter attack. Make sure that I'm not going to expose the defense to a goal on the break. So that was what it was with Jose Mourinho. I think this is peak, a prime Jose Mourinho, or not prime. I said typical Jose Mourinho actually. Always the same. And we'll take you back to 2017-18. Man United, firing on all cylinders, scoring goals for fun in some ways, they're getting lots of points, getting lots of goals. They go to Liverpool at Anfield, away from home. Liverpool also a sort of attacking team, pretty much in the same mold that Chelsea are attacking team, but also with the dodgy defense. Chelsea probably don't have that dodgy defense part at this moment. They're actually pretty good defensively, but still an attacking team. People expecting maybe attack versus attack, and Jose Mourinho says, you know what, I'm setting up shop. I'm parking the bus, and I'm going to just try and get a draw. And that's what he did. They got a nil at Anfield, and this kind of feels the same way. Spurs have been scoring goals for fun. They've been pretty attacking, pretty offensive, and he comes up against a Chelsea team that's probably also, on a par attack offensively, and they don't necessarily have many defensive weaknesses, so you can kind of understand where those issues were. But still, he parked the bus today. The substitutions pretty much gave it away as well. But that team shape, I mean, it was like at one point you were seeing Son playing as a right wing back. So yeah, essentially as a right wing back in a back six. So it was quite obvious. I mean, uh, a very typical Jose Mourinho game against away to a big six side, which is basically to go and park the bus. You get a goal, you get a goal. If you don't, it's fine. It's not a big deal. And a lot of people probably point to Man United at Old Trafford where they beat them 6-1. And I've said it. I think they did consider an early goal, so it forced them to come out a little bit. And when they did come out, the fact is United pretty much shot themselves in the foot with that first goal that they conceded, and that second goal really, I think is yeah. I mean, there was there's a whole comedy of errors there, but it was not. I mean, I don't think Jose at any point thought he was going to win 6-1 in that game. But in this one, quite clearly, he tried to park that bus, and the bus was parked, and it did a job. They got the point. They're now back on top of the table with that on goal difference with that point, as was expected. And I mean, there's no real standout performances. There were a few chances for Chelsea though. Giroud had a really great one at the end. There was the Tammy Abraham with a few misses. Mason Mount actually had a pretty good shot that was saved by Lewis. I think that was the only save that was actually made in that second half. It was a really cagey game. Spurs again, same thing. I don't really think they had any big chances. There was again at the end there where Zouma gave the ball away to the Chelsea, but he didn't make that right decision. And that's what often happens is when you're defending for so long, when you suddenly get those opportunities, it takes a world class player to then go on the other end and make a difference. Doesn't always happen. Doesn't always work out because you're not used to it. You're not used to being in that frame of mind of thinking offensively, and you're always thinking defense. So it's very difficult to switch that mindset. I think Chelsea, those chances that they were getting, probably they weren't expecting them. I don't know what was going on in their mind, but there was a lack of quality, I think, overall from both teams today. I think there was a bit lacking in that game. Hakim Ziyech had a poor game today, I felt. Once again, he had a pretty poor game last week as well against Newcastle. I think got masked a little bit because they won in the end. But yeah, I mean, he had another poor game today against against Spurs, and maybe he's just a bit tired. Maybe he needs a bit of rest, and maybe he'll get that in the next game or the next few games. But he looked off it today. He looked off the pace. I think Werner also looked a little bit off the pace, so he did score a goal, which was then chalked off offside. But I mean, again, like I said, the game plan was quite clear from both teams, was not to lose. So when you're playing with that kind, it's essentially you're playing with one hand tied behind your back if you're an offensive player, because the manager said, don't overcommit an attack, don't go overzealous, and make sure that you're always aware of what spaces you're leaving behind or what you're doing, and that makes it difficult for an attacker to then get to express themselves or to go out and get those goals. So it's understandable that the attackers were off pace today. um, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was just a poor game overall. I think we were spoiled. I think we were spoiled what we saw in the morning. So it's a bit unfair comparison, but yeah, it was pretty poor. The one thing though to mention is probably the biggest disappoint the people who would be the most disappointed is probably Liverpool, because they had a chance, and they had a chance to get 3 points against Brighton, and if they had got that, I wonder if you would have seen more ambition from Chelsea or Spurs. Maybe we might have seen more ambition, maybe not. Maybe that was always the game plan. But because Liverpool had drawn, I think Spurs were comfortable knowing, we can draw this game because we'll still be top, and so we don't want to go out and grab a win. We don't need to grab the win. And Chelsea probably felt, we're expecting Spurs to get 3 points. It doesn't matter. We'll take the draw. So I mean, ultimately, I think there was a bit of lack of ambition, but probably fueled in part by what had happened yesterday, and that probably will disappoint Liverpool a little bit because they had a chance there to make up ground or to increase their lead over the chasing pack, but that didn't happen. I mean, again, this is one of the reasons. I mean, just going back on the Jose Mourinho point, I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, what are you talking about?" But the fact is, he did park the bus today, and this is one of the reasons why he hasn't been winning the league of late. He hasn't been a league-winning manager because he did this with Chelsea as well at times, and he's done this with Manchester United as well. When the going, when there's a team that he fears is going to rip his team, like his instinct will always be to defend first. His instinct will never be to go on the offensive; it will always be to defend first. Once he's comfortable and confident that his team are not going to concede a goal against the opposition, then he will look at offensive options. But usually, it's always about defense first. And against a team like Chelsea, who are good in offense, he obviously wasn't comfortable. No, he was never confident in his defense to keep Chelsea out unless he had that extra protection from midfield and from his midfield and his offense, and that's what he did today. So it didn't work against City because City had this really offensive team which got to 100 points in that last season in the previous one when he had Manchester United. And so I mean, if there was, I mean, this is a strange season, but if Liverpool were at the Liverpool level of last season, then these kind of results would be seen as an aberration, probably would be seen as more negative than it will. I think most Spurs fans would probably be happy with the point, especially considering it's away from home, it's against Stamford Bridge. I think they'll be happy with the point, but it doesn't bode well for their title credentials, according to me. Anyway, but they can't take anything away from the fact they had a game plan, they executed perfectly, they got the point. It's a well-deserved point. I think from Chelsea's point of view, there will be a lot of disappointment because they couldn't break Spurs down. But then again, how disappointed would you be knowing that Lampard probably wouldn't be so disappointed because he set his team out knowing that he didn't want to go that he was okay with the draw, as long as for him, as long as they didn't lose, any result was okay. A draw was okay, a win was okay, but you cannot lose the game. And so how unhappy can Lampard be as well? I think Lampard will probably, I mean, Lampard probably will be happy as well, be satisfied, be like, okay, what, you guys did what I wanted you to do, which is not lose. So I mean, and ultimately, I think it's probably the biggest. This losers are probably us as fans. We sat there and spent 90 minutes of our time, or an hour and a half of our life watching that game, which didn't really produce much of entertainment. And again, these are big games, and these kind of things happen often in big games where it's tight and cagey. But I mean, it's essentially what I predicted, and what I'm sure a lot of you predicted as well. It was going to be tight. It was going to be cagey. It was going to be two teams that were playing not to lose. Maybe Chelsea had a bit more onus because they were at home, but really, I mean, ultimately you're looking at a team that lost a lot of games last season because they tried to be too gung ho and to attack, and it's a manager who's reeling that back in, and he's like, no, I want to preserve points. I want to make sure I get. It was last season. It was let's go for 3 points. Three is better than one. Last season that was the philosophy. 3 is better than 1. I think this season it's 1 is better than 0. So they were willing to get 3 points and they're willing to go to 0 to get those 3 points this season. They're more like we'll get that. We're willing to give up 3 points if we can get that 1 point, because we don't want to go to zero just trying to get those 3 points. So I think that's the change that has happened in the mentality, especially in the big games this season from Lampard. So that's evolution. Maybe some people will like that. That's progress. Maybe some people feel, well, it's regression. That's, it's really personal. You let me know in the comments, what do you think about that? Do you think that it was a good game plan from Chelsea, considering they were at home, or was it, could he have been more ambitious in his team selections and his substitutions? And same with Jose Mourinho. I mean, we expect him to be parking the bus, but is it? But is it? We keep talking about fresh starts. We keep talking about this attacking Jose, but when it push comes to stuff, when these big moments come, he goes right back to what he knows. He goes right back to those. He falls right back into those same traps. So it's like deja vu all over again, isn't it? It's like one step forward, one step back. It's kind of that. Not two steps back, because they didn't lose today. It's one step forward, one step back. He goes right back to the same place that he started, when push comes to shove. But there's not a lot to talk about. I don't want to give out a man of the match. I don't think that game deserved a man of the match, to be honest. I'm not going to give a man of the match. I think it would be. I mean, you can make your own mind up. Let me know who you thought was the man of the match. But quite frankly, I don't think anyone deserved a man of the match from that game. It was pretty dreadful to watch, to be honest. It was pretty dreadful, all things considered. Just for the fact of all the hype and the fact that this was a chance for both of these two teams to lay a marker down for Liverpool. Because if Liverpool watched that game, Liverpool are going to be disappointed looking at that game, not because one of these teams, because these teams drew, but because they drew their game, and they were like, these two teams. I mean, if I was Klopp, I'd be thinking, these guys aren't really these guys. We should be really ahead of these guys. We shouldn't be level on points with Spurs. We shouldn't be 2 points clear of Chelsea. We should be 5, 6, 7, 8 points clear of these teams, right? The fact that we are here in this position is an embarrassment in some ways. Really, maybe that's harsh to say an embarrassment, but it shows us in a negative light, right? We shouldn't be Liverpool shouldn't be level on points with Spurs. Liverpool shouldn't be 2 points ahead of Chelsea. They should be far ahead. The only reason they're not is because of VAR and injuries, right? So that's what Klopp will be thinking as well. They'll be disappointed with that, because they'll be thinking we should be far ahead. I don't think either of these two teams have made a case for being title winners this season. They'll probably contend for the title because the competition is so average this season that you're going to get. I think Tottenham and Chelsea are the best of a bad bunch, really, of among the rest of the teams, and so they'll contend for the title. But I mean, realistically, those two teams should not be anywhere near a Premier League title. Liverpool should be far, far ahead. They're so much superior than these two teams. It hurts to say it, but that's the truth. They are so much more superior than those two teams. The only reason they're not so far ahead is because the fact injuries and VAR have crippled them. But that being said, you can't make those excuses. If Tottenham deservedly are at the top of the table, you can't take that away. They've been very good this season. They've been better in moments than Liverpool. Liverpool probably have the better team on paper, but paper doesn't win you titles, right? So Spurs deservedly on top, and sitting pretty there, and they'll be there for at least another week. But I mean, yeah, the game wasn't good watch. But let me know what you thought in the comments. I mean, as a neutral, when you watch games as a neutral, it's always different. I mean, as a fan, I know a lot of times when 0-0 draws and people say it's boring, but then sometimes, and as a fan, I felt, what, it wasn't boring for me as a fan, because I was on the edge of my seat, wondering what was going to happen, who's going to make a mistake, who's going to mess up, and so many times it happened, right? So maybe as a fan, it was a different opinion. So let me know if you're a Chelsea fan or a Spurs fan. What did you think of that game? What do you think? What did you make of those after tactics and the selections? So I would love to hear from that. Always happy to hear from you guys. So that's my review for that and reaction to that game. I mean, it's a review because my reaction is there's no reaction. I'm just like, I don't know what to say about it. But anyway, congratulations to Spurs fans for once again being back on top for the week. You can brag for another week that you're on top. Congratulations to Chelsea fans as well, because you're still keeping pace with that top spot, with that top chasing pack. So you're still there and not out of the title race yet. So definitely congratulations all around. 0-0 final scores. Chelsea against Tottenham. Tottenham back on top. And if you enjoyed that video, please remember to smash a like. And please subscribe to the channel as well if you're new. We really want to keep producing this content. We want to make sure that we can provide. We're gonna make sure that we do provide you with engaging, exciting content, and that we're gonna keep doing these reactions and trying to provide. I'm not gonna say objective, because you can never really be objective when it comes to football, but giving you the real stuff, like keeping it real. That's what we want to do. We just want to keep it real. We want to make sure that we have the real fan opinion from the people that watch the show. When I'm watching the game, I want to make sure that I'm giving you my honest opinion. Trying to be constructive in the criticism. I don't want to be don't want to criticize for criticism's sake, but we'll try to do that. And we'd appreciate your support as if you support us by subscribing, we can keep producing this content for you as well. So thank you so much for joining. Have a good night or a good day, depending on what time you're watching this. I'll be back. I may be back with the Arsenal game, the Arsenal Wolves game. That's going to be up in a little bit. Probably by the time this video goes up, it'll probably already have started. We'll see how that game goes, and I'll make a decision on whether I want to do it or not. But if you want to see it, let me know in the comments. So let me know on Twitter or Facebook. If you're following us, that you want to see that game reaction as well. We'll definitely do it if people are interested. But we'll take a decision later on of whether we do that or not. But enjoy enjoy what's left of the weekend, or have a good week ahead. And we'll see you again very soon. Take care. Bye bye.